Hi everyone, I thought I'd make another little video about navigating conflict. I was thinking about the last video we did that was about preparing for dialogue and focusing quite a lot on what we can do so that when we're in the situation we can hear the other person, and I wanted to add a little bit around expressing ourselves in a way that's most likely to be heard. I notice I'm a little distracted because I am out by my favourite tree. It felt really peaceful to be here, and my phone camera is like near the top of my screen, so there's me and the screen, and yeah, just noticing that distraction. That's okay. Yeah, I guess that's a little unexpected model of authentic expression. Yeah, and can be really useful to see that, like, the things we think we're meant to say, the way we think we're meant to be, and sometimes something's going on that's stopping us being present, and it can be useful to name it. So kind of glad that came up. Yeah, even though I don't like seeing myself on screen, that's what's there. So yeah. Yes, I think the first thing to say about self-expression is when we're in a conflict or we've been triggered, there can be so much going on in our minds, so many stories, like really trying to make sense of what's happened and why it's happened. So there can be a lot of guessing why the person did what they did, or thinking we know why they did what they did, and what you might call enemy images, so like stories about them and who they are, and strategies to get back to what you want, and maybe judgments about yourself. Like, so much can be going on. So when we start to think about expressing ourselves to the other person, it's really useful to sift that stuff and find the core of what's really, really important to say to them, really what it is that you most want to be heard and is most likely to be heard. And again, I really want to encourage you not to hear this as right and wrong. It's more like some things as humans are really hard for us to hear. So if we hear someone making a story about us, we're most likely to reject that, especially if it doesn't ring true, and then it's hard to hear anything else, once that happens. So these are some suggestions of things that are more likely to be heard. And in the last video we talked a bit about intention and impact, and so the first thing to think about is really focusing on what the impact has been on you. So I'm going to give a few prompts, and these are partly following the way restorative justice, the process of restorative justice, are also similar from MVC and slightly adapted just to make the language as simple as possible. And it's a way I've found has worked for me. So these are the prompts. So we'll start with the first one. So they're really for you to ask yourself, and as a way of preparing what you might want to say. So the first one is, what happened? So that's really about so much kind of happened. There could have been like a whole conversation, or a series of conversation, or a series of events, and sometimes we might be really thinking about one certain part of what they said or one certain thing they did, and they're thinking of a different part. So it's really useful to name and to think for yourself, what specifically was it that really triggered a lot of feelings in you. So something specific that they did or they said, and directing you all to that moment so you both know what you're talking about. So that's the first one, what happened. And then the second one is, how did it impact you? So again, thinking about impact. So when that hit you in your body, you might want to start with, can you remember, recall kind of what happened in you? So that can really help you pinpoint that moment. So you might have really shrunk away in shock, or you might have felt a real fire rising with anger, or you might have just really felt deflated, or maybe sadness come up later. So thinking about the impact in that moment, and it can be feelings, if you really find it easy to express the way you are feeling, but you can also be things like other ways it impacted you. So you might want to say, it left me just feeling really low energy, and I didn't really want to come to work anymore, or it made me really scared to think of bumping into you again, or something like that. So yeah, you can include in that impact like the way you felt, but also like other things in your life, or I couldn't sleep, or so to share with them, when that thing happened, this is what it was like for me, and invite them into your world so they really can understand how it impacted you. And then I think it's useful to say, how do you feel now? So also, sometimes this thing's happened quite a while ago, and when you go back to it, some of the way you felt might still be the same, but some things might have shifted. And I think that's really connecting too, because that moment mattered and the impact on you mattered, but also it's really good to connect with how you are now. And sometimes in the moment there was anger and now we're more with sadness, or in the moment there was shock and now we're more with anger, or so I think it's nice to ask yourself that question as well. And then the last one I've got in here is, what do you need? So this is slightly different from maybe if you've done some MVC practices, so choose what feels most appropriate for you. So in this question, what do you need, it's really thinking, quite a lot's happened, and you've shared the impact, you've shared how you feel now, and what's left, like what are you needing? So it might be that there's actually quite a specific request there. It might be that you're there's a question you really want to know, to say, for me to find more peace, like I really want to know what you were thinking when you said that thing. Or it might be something more like that will help you to feel trust again. So you might be, I'm really wanting to know that you understand that this has impacted me a lot, and that you're going to think more carefully by doing it again. Or more specifically, that there's a boundary, something you want to say, I want to know that you'll agree to this. So if you're with someone who really knows MVC, or you really know MVC, the more classic way is to like feel down into the level of needs, and to share like the needs that were unmet. So it's like, when that impacted me, really didn't meet my need for safety. And there's a slightly different way of using that word need, and you can feel what you say, but this is something that's I found kind of works for everyone, and everyone can understand. So what happened? How did it impact you? How do you feel now? And what do you need? So that's one way of expressing yourself. And obviously this is quite focused on expressing when someone's done something that's impacted you. That's what you might want to say. And if it's more of a one-way thing, or you're more the person that's been impacted, and you've really heard, the main process is you hearing them, then you still might want to reflect back and express yourself, like what was going on for you in that moment. And I think still, the main kind of thing I find supportive in that is, really checking in with yourself. And it's most likely they're going to ask you for something or ask a question. And if you know that before, it can be really supportive to just sit with that question and see what's below the first answers that come, and really noticing if what you want to do is defend or attack, and like, is there even more truth? That's what I'd ask yourself, like, what's the most truth that I can find, and what that I feel safe enough to say. Like, I feel, it's vulnerable, but I feel okay. There's probably more on that. Let me know if you've got some questions. So many ways that conflict can come up, and expressing yourself can come up, and I really like working with people one-to-one on their specific live scenarios. So I hope these general tips are helpful, but if you've got something specific, let me know. The last thing I want to say comes from a friend, and I don't actually know the original source of this. I've asked, I can try and find out again, but this phrase, which I found really helpful, which someone said was, take your trigger to the mirror and take your boundary to the person. And I think, I found that such a good guide to sit and do those inner processes. Like, you can find that in that first video. And see what is yours to work through, see where you can find peace and more space. And then there might really be a boundary left, or a request. There might be something you want to take to them. You might want to share, like we've done about impact and that, but you might want to take a specific boundary or request to them, like once you've done that work, and really owning your own responses, and in a way that's empowering. It doesn't mean that there's nothing that needs to change in them. Like, it's really good to know you can set boundaries and still feel like that empowerment, that like I can work with what's come up, and I can transform even if they don't change, alright, I'm going to leave it from there. Let me know if you've got any questions, any feedback, or anything live that you're interested to work with one-to-one. See you soon.